Sarah Jane Morris is with me on the Outhouse Lounge. Or should I say in the Outhouse Lounge? Either way, it works. The album is called The Sisterhood. We're talking about 10 women that heavily influenced her, and she wrote albums, sort of a little biographical song for each of them. One of them, and again, I don't know if I can focus on everybody, but I do want to go back to the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century, that is, from the 19th to 20th. We're going to Bessie Smith. She's the, heck, she's the epitome of St. Louis blues, but also did the song St. Louis Blues, and yes, was in a movie called St. Louis Blues. There we go. So it's everything in that respect, but that's way back. And I know I know you're quite astute in the music industry. What turns you on to Bessie Smith?
Bessie. So what originally took me to Bessie was when I was at drama school, because I was training to be an actress. My dad was in prison. Okay. So I come from a big family. I've got 6 brothers, and he was in a top security prison actually at this point. And I was that student, that drama student with the huge chip on the shoulder. And we did an in-house production. Now, I was there with some pretty formidable people. I was there with Christian Scott Thomas, Julian Sands, Rupert Everett, French and Saunders, who were, well, Jennifer Saunders was the person behind, oh gosh, now, I'm sure it's huge in America too. The TV series that's absolutely fabulous. Did that happen in America?
Yes, it's right there behind the Young Ones, the Blackadder.
Absolutely. Well, Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French were also at Central with me. So we did an in-house production, and the person presenting it was Julian Sands. The ventriloquist dummy was Rupert Everett. French and Saunders did their first circus act. I became obsessed with prison songs because I had a dad in prison. That took me to Bessie Smith in my research, and I found her incredible. And the reason I start with Bessie is she put blues on the map. It wasn't a man, it was a woman. She put Columbia Records on the map.
Didn't you have to spend the first few years of her life in prison, or was her mother or something like that?
What happened was by the time she was 9 years old, her parents are dead. Her father was a pastor. She was busking on street corners aged 9. She got picked up by Ma Rainey and Pa Rainey's vaudeville circus. That's where she learned the art of vaudeville and singing. But she became bigger than Ma Rainey. She became so big and so successful that she was able, because of segregation, she wasn't able to eat in a restaurant or stay in a hotel. So she bought a Pullman train. And as a result, her entire troupe were able to travel around America on this Pullman train. But while they were traveling, they had the Ku Klux Klan sort of firing at them as they were traveling. You know, there were many bullet holes in that train. And she was extraordinary, an extraordinary woman. There's very little footage. This bit that you're showing now, that's almost all that there is of Bessie. But she paved the way for all of the rest that came. And she married the bastard husband, even though most of her relationships were with women. She adopted one of her dancers, one of her lover dancers' sons when this person was dying. The husband was using all of her money. She was only really married to him because he was her manager. He used all her money to put it into another vaudevillian singer that he was in love with. And when they were divorced and she was no longer giving him money, he blackmailed her by taking the child. She never ever saw that child again. Lord only knows what happened to it, but probably went to a home, this boy. Anyway, she had to totally recreate herself, because you had the Depression and the music that by the time people were buying records again, it was no longer that kind of blues. It was Billie Holiday. She paved the way for Lady Day. And so she, a bit like me with the Communards, having been, having a #1 nearly all over the world and traveling in style, I decided I didn't want that kind of career. And I took a very different line. So I was back in the back of a van traveling like that. And it was almost like that for Bessie, from being, the most famous blues singer that there was, to having to travel in her, her old Packard with the other musicians to go down Route 61 or 66 to her concerts.